Welcome back to the HOG-POD. It's been a minute, I know, but thank you for bearing with us. This last couple of weeks has seen both sad and bad news for Harley owners up and down the country. Dealerships are closing, HOG chapters are being orphaned, and on the face of it, it could all seem like the beginning of the end. Of course, our thoughts are with each of the employees of the dealerships, which seemingly had to suddenly shut their doors. And for many HOG chapter members, there'll be lots of questions about what happens next. Where do we go? What about the maintenance of our bikes? Where do we ride together? How do we still socialize? And perhaps even a little feeling of, well, that's it. It was a good run. However, you don't have to dig too deep to find that, in fact, this situation has happened numerous times in the past. And despite the odds, the affected chapters have continued to ride together, socialize together, and essentially just carry on. As many of us know, the likes of the Harley-Davidson Riders Club of Great Britain have never relied on dealerships in any shape or form. Their membership is still strong. They still ride together. Their rallies appear to be still well attended, and they're likely wondering what all the fuss is about. But of course, for us as HOG members, it's an important issue and one that absolutely needs to be discussed. For this episode of HOG-POD, I'm absolutely delighted to have with us the director of Nene Valley, a chapter that is quite simply living proof that life as a chapter and no dealership simply carries on as normal. So welcome to the show, Simon. How are you doing?
Hiya, Kenny. Good to meet you. I'm doing well, thank you.
Simon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, me. What do you want to know about me? Married. We've got grown-up kids. I've got an absolutely mad boxer puppy downstairs. It drives me crazy trying to get it trained. I've been into American vehicles for quite a lot of years. Yeah, I started probably 25 years ago with American cars. Why I started with American cars, I don't know, because it's the most expensive way of getting into American vehicles. But my hobby back in the day when I was in my mid-20s was building and driving American muscle cars. You know, I started off with the Trans Ams. I went into Camaros. I had a Dodge Charger and a Plymouth Roadrunner. And then family life meant I couldn't afford to keep them anymore. And then I started on to working with two wheels. Been to America 4 times now. Fortunate enough to go to Florida 3 times with family, with the kids. But obviously now they've grown up. There was a group of us from the chapter went across to California last year and done the spectacular California tour with Orange and Black. Absolutely fantastic ride.
Brilliant. So I'm sitting here listening to you. I've got young kids, and this is all ahead of me, hopefully.
Oh, you'd love it. You'd love it. And I'm a big kid at heart, you know. So all the Disney stuff, yeah, it's certainly worth going over there and enjoying yourself. Yeah, but that aside, you know, we're here for the bikes. You know, I've enjoyed my time being a dad. I've enjoyed my time bringing the kids up, enjoying them while they're young. But they're growing up, they've flown the nest, and it's time for me to start enjoying adult things now. You know, and bikes or Harley Davidsons is a big thing for me.
So you say you started with the American cars and then moved to 2 wheels. Did you move straight to Harley Davidson, or did you ride other brands first?
No, I didn't move straight to Harley Davidson. I mean, as a 16-year-old, I go back before I was driving cars. You know, I started with the twist and goes at the age of 16. That's when I first started on 2 wheels. From there, I think I was 17 or 18. I moved to a little Kawasaki KE100 trials bike until I got myself barred from riding it because I had a visit from somebody with blue lights. Weren't my fault. I was totally innocent.
Yeah, never me. Yeah, wrong guy, go.
No, it wasn't me. I promise you, it wasn't me. Mistaken identity. And after that, when I took my test, I had a Suzuki 400 that me and a friend of mine, a little play about with, turned into a little bit of a street fighter.
Tell us about your first Harley Davidson.
It was a midlife crisis purchase, as most of us do. I think I was knocking 40's door, and I'd got a beamer bonnet to buy myself my first Harley. Didn't know where to get one from. Obviously, I knew about dealerships, but my finances weren't that great back then. So I looked on the old eBay, had a shop around, and I found a lovely little Sportster 883C in
Yes.
purple. I looked at it online, really liked it, asked the usual questions as you do, decided it was definitely going to be the one for me. So I got a lift down there. It was down in Essex near Colchester. And when we went down there, the rain was biblical. Didn't care. The ride back was absolutely fantastic. So my introduction into Harley Davidsons was the Sportster 883.
Jared, who he's not with us here tonight, he's got other things on, but similar story to you. He took a notion, went onto eBay, found a 2002 Heritage. Same again, went down to go and pick it up. I think the rain was coming up as well as across, and he loved every single second of it. How long did you keep the Sportster?
I'd probably say it was 6 or 7 years I had that. I loved every minute of riding that. The reason I had to get rid of it was a bit unfortunate. Family issues at the time meant we moved house, and I hadn't got a garage.
Right.
So for a period of time, I was bikeless, Harleyless, not living the dream, hankering for another one.
How did you fix that very sad story?
That very sad story is we moved house again, me and my wife, and we moved to a terrace property with a double garage at the back. Happy days. So
there we go.
Looking on eBay, looking at all the garages as you do, I was knocking on 50's door, and my wife said, "I'll buy you one for your birthday. We'll go half each for my 50th birthday." So looking at all these different options, I found an absolutely stunning 2005 Wide Glide. So, and that was my foot back into the door of riding Harley Davidsons. And it was after I bought the Wide Glide, I joined the Nene Valley Chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, before I joined the chapter, I'd go out on the bike and I'd do a little tour around the area, not really knowing where to go. And I thought, well, there's got to be more to riding a bike than the same old route. I didn't really think about going that much further afield. So I joined the chapter. I joined the chapter in 2017. And one of the first rides we went on, my wife came out on the back, and we only went down to Oxford. I live in Northamptonshire in the Midlands, so it weren't a huge distance we travelled. But when we got back, she said, "I'll be honest with you, that's about the furthest I can go on the back of that bike."
I read a Heritage, and probably a similar story there. My wife loves to ride on the back of the bike. There is a limit to how far she can actually ride, and for us, to be honest with you, the Ultra is the one that we will eventually go to when I'm not shelling out an absolute fortune on bringing up young kids. But the Ultras, obviously for two up anyway, certainly seems to be the way to go.
Believe it or not, we jumped on the Ultra. We took a ride up to Sycamore, Harley Davidson, up in for the home of the Rutland chapter.
Yeah,
just because we wanted to buy a couple of T-shirts, and as you do, you take a look around the showroom, see a couple of bikes, and there was a 2015 Road Glide Special in denim black.
Oh, beautiful!
Absolutely gorgeous looking bike. Mm-hmm. And the wife says, "Go and sit on it." I said, No. Now, if I sit on it, I should want to buy it. She said, "Go and sit on it." So I sat on it, fell in love with it. Jump off. She said, "Go and see how much I want for it." I said, "Oh, no. I can't afford it." Long story short, part exchange, come away with the Road Glide Special.
There you go. Do you know what? There's going to be a lot of people listening to this who are thinking your wife is probably, without doubt, the greatest wife ever. Because I think for many of us, you don't need another bike. No, you don't need another bike. Why do you need that bike? Whereas your wife seems to be, go on, I dare you, get another one.
Yeah, she is. She's mad for it. So I found a street glide, 21 plate street glide down in Guildford. Done the deal, part exchange, brought that back. Then I found a little bobber that I like, just as a bit of a fun toy. And you go back to having a great wife, do what you like. If you want it, just go out and buy it.
And the bobber has the right number of seats on it.
It's got exactly the right number of seats. Yeah, I can't get moaned at if I'm going too fast round corners because it's got the right amount of seats on it.
Tell us a little bit about the chapter itself, about memberships, how many people get involved, what's the current state of play with yourselves?
Well, the chapter was formed in 2001 and we became an orphan chapter, I believe it was in 2010. Yeah, at its height, as an adopted chapter, I think we had over 400 members at one point. So it was quite a big active chapter back in the day. Obviously, over a period of time, the membership has dwindled slightly because it's difficult to maintain it without a dealership. But we currently sit at 117 members, active members. From the 117 members, we tend to work on about a third of your membership being active.
I mean, 117 is a good number. It's more than 116. It's, yes, there are chapters with 300-400 members, and this is just a personal view, and people listening may disagree, but I would say that chapters of that size, I wouldn't even know how you begin to engage that number of people. That, it's a massive amount of people to try and engage. If you're talking of 117 with any one point an active 25-30 people, that's manageable, it's realistic, riding is safe, it's good company. As you say, people are dropping in and out. They have the option to drop in and out. I don't think you need to have 300 or 400 members to be deemed as a successful chapter.
For me, I think the success of a chapter is measured from the enjoyment that your members get out of being a member of the chapter. The ride outs they go on. When we're not riding, it's the non-riding activities that we get involved with, the socialising. For me, that's the measure of a successful chapter.
Yes, I think you're right. I think certainly by the time this episode will go out, it would have passed. But I believe that you have an event on Valentine's evening. Is it bring your bling or bring 'em bling?
Yes, the bling and buy sale. Yes, a monthly chapter social gathering, having a little bling and buy sale. So if you've got any old memorabilia, some old bike stuff, some clothing that you no longer want, bring it along to the club night. Sell it on if you can.
What I really wanted to talk about today is obviously recently you'd have to have been living on, if you're involved in HOG, you'd have to be living under a rock to not realise or not know that there's been a lot of change and a lot of shift in direction. Manchester, Chester, Norwich, Jersey, they are now orphan chapters. They're not the first. Obviously, there's yourself. In addition, already there is others, Lakeside, Stoke, the list goes on and on and on. And what I'd like to ask, if you don't mind, is just a few questions, really, just to maybe give a bit of reassurance and a little bit of bit of support to these recently orphaned chapters. The likes of your club nights and social events and meeting places, in the absence of a dealership, how do you work that?
What we use is a local pub. So we've got it's called the Walnut Tree, between Towcester and Northampton, because the home of Nene Valley has always been Towcester. That's where the dealership was. So we try to stay as central to that as we can. We've got a local pub down there and restaurant that have got a back room that they rent out to us. It's only a small nominal fee, but it's more than adequate. It means we can have our monthly meetings down there, committee meetings and our social gatherings. With regards to things like breakfast meetups, etc., that's where we are at a slight disadvantage to maybe some other chapters that have got meeting places like dealerships, because we haven't got that home, if you like. Mm-hmm. So we have to shop around a little bit to see what's available. But for actual monthly social meetings, we've got a home, our base, that we use on a regular basis.
And you say you have a home for the monthlies. Presumably then for the ad hoc stuff or sort of one-offs, you have the freedom and the liberty just to disappear off and pick any venue, I suppose, as does any chapter. but particularly yourself, that is an option that's always going to be open to any orphan chapter.
Exactly that. I mean, it means that we can tailor the venue to suit the event we're hosting. If I was to be honest with it, for me, the downside is not having a permanent base. But for that being the downside, there's a lots of positives that go along with that. So for me, it's not detrimental to the chapter.
Yeah, I mean, geographically, because of where you are, and correct me if I'm wrong here, presumably you can rely on the support from the likes of Birmingham, Wolf-Runa, Sycamore, other nearby chapters. Is that the case, or do you generally, is there not much interaction between you guys?
No, we do interact. The two chapters that we interacted with more often than not last year was Rutland and Three Rivers, because, like you say, geographically we're quite centrally located. So the surrounding chapters for us, we've got, like you say, Wolf-Runa, Birmingham, we've got Rutland, Nottingham's not far away for Sherwood, and then we've got the likes of Oxford and Three Rivers. So we are fairly lucky with what we've got surrounding us.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, again, I suppose this is the might that we can rely on when we're part of HOG, in that we aren't on our own. We're not just left to our own devices. We can, call on other chapters. I was looking at obviously some of the more recent ones, more geographically isolated, I suppose. Obviously, Norwich were Ross's crowd, although I believe that they have a relationship with the Fenlanders. Stevie from the Manchester chapter, who the man is a machine. He's already got himself set up with a new home in I believe it's the VG Bar and Grill. In fact, I saw a picture of him pointing at the new home. So he's obviously been quick off the mark. Chester is obviously nearby. I suppose there can be some collaboration there. The one that would be the most isolated, I think, is Jersey. Now, Jersey, which fall under UK and Ireland anyway, geographically would probably feel isolated anyway. They now have no dealership as such. I suppose they'll be feeling a little exposed at the moment and wondering what to do next.
Yeah, potentially. But what I would say on that is, it'd be great to have a dealership to call a home. But as we're talking about the chapters, the chapter is the membership. So the dealership may be going, but the membership is still there. It's just a case of finding another home and building up from there.
Yeah.
I'm sure Cassandra over at Jersey has got a finger on the pulse already. We're sorting things out.
I don't think too much gets past Cassandra, to be honest with you. So
no.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one there.
Yeah, orphan chapters, yes, we lose. They lose the dealership support, but the heart of the chapter is its membership.
Like I said in the intro, there, I'm sure listeners from the likes of the Harley Davidson Riders Club GB, who do listen in secret, apparently, because they're concerned about the fact that it says HOG in the name. But they do listen, and people from that club do keep in touch. And I had an email from one person saying, I don't know what all the fuss is about. The dealership shutting. So what? It's not about the dealership. The dealership sells motorcycles. Chapter is about, or as they have their regions, it's about the individuals themselves. So if you were to give a little bit of advice to the likes of the more recently orphan chapters, what would you say their first port of call or calls should be to restabilize, reassure the chapter membership, and make sure that it doesn't all start to fall apart?
I think communication is a key thing, Kenny. Speak to your membership, speak to your committee, look on how you're going to drive the chapter forward. As I said earlier, that I'm not dismissing dealerships, because dealerships have a huge part to play in chapters, but the chapter is all about the membership. So whether you've got a dealership or not, the chapter will remain if you want it to thrive. So it's just business as usual. You've just got to find somewhere else to hold your meetings and your gatherings.
Anything else that you think would be, that you would say to any orphan chapter that approached you that, what do I do now?
Right. So for me, and I'm sure all chapters have got a fantastic committee of people. But for an orphan chapter, for me, the key thing is having a dedicated, hard-working committee. Everybody on the committee is a volunteer, but to have road captains that work solidly to make sure you've got a full riding calendar led by the head road captain. You've got the secretary that works the socks off behind the scenes, the treasurer making sure your finances are okay. We spoke about the editor putting out the magazines, your ladies of Harley keeping your LOH activities going, charities officer. They're all separate events that go to fill up the year's calendar. And when you look at what a chapter does throughout the year, it might look a lot, but there's a lot more goes on behind the scenes for the people that are as dedicated as what they are to make everything work. So from a director's point of view, certainly from my point of view, if it weren't for them, the chapter wouldn't be as successful as it is today.
Yeah, of course. And I suppose going down again, this is the time for the membership to gather around the committee, isn't it? And if there are members that want to get involved but not necessarily want to take a post in the committee, they could, get in touch with, say, the activities officer and say, listen, if you need a hand, or if you want to offload a little bit of work, I'm willing. I just can't do it full time. I suppose this is just a time for everyone to pull together. And as you say, I suppose as a director, yes, of course you're at the helm, but I suppose we're all useless without the people around us.
Exactly that. You can't run a chapter on your own. You've got to have the people around you.
I was having a quick look at the different chapters, particularly, and they have their newsletters, and I think they will definitely need to continue. How do you communicate with your members?
Well, we have a chapter magazine that's published every month, without fail. And for a small chapter, I think the editor that works on that is doing a sterling job. Obviously the articles that are published come from within the chapter, so we all play a part in doing that. But the communication is sent out every month via email to every member. We've got the chapter Facebook page, and that is constantly updated with different bits of information. So the communication is always there, it's always live. And then you also got your monthly meetings, your social meetings. Obviously not everybody can attend them, but it's another avenue for communicating with the chapter.
I'm going to ask this question. I don't know if you'll even be able to or allowed to answer it, but presumably there is a higher level meetings between the directors of all the chapters, either monthly or every couple of months, etc. Does something like that take place?
It does take place. Up until recently, the directors have a quarterly meeting via Teams or Zoom, the usual platforms, where the HOG CEO hosts a meeting with us, so we all get together and have a chat about chapters, about dealerships, etc., etc. We've also had October last year, the directors got together at East Midlands, the Hog Rock sessions. It's another avenue for directors to get together. So there is communication goes out at all levels.
Whether you're an orphan chapter or whether you're a chapter under a dealership, there is a HOG charter, isn't there? And as long as you guys, and I say you guys, I mean orphan chapters, as long as you are all still operating under the spirit of the HOG chapter, you're not going to run into administrative difficulties. And presumably, on top of that, there is direct support from HOG itself. It might not be as accessible and as open as some people would like, but presumably there is an inroad to HOG directly.
There is. Obviously with all chapters, you've got avenues that you need to follow. We all have to adhere to the chapter charter. Some chapters have operational procedures, as in bylaws, and that helps. It certainly does help, in my view, having a set of bylaws when you haven't got a dealership. Everybody has access to that. And if there ever got a situation where it needed escalating that would have gone to the dealer principal, as an orphan chapter, we've got the HOG managers. So for the orphan chapters, Martin Dickinson is the go-to person if there was anything that needed escalating or needed any advice from HOG with regards to the management of an orphan chapter. I've known Martin ever since I joined the chapter, because obviously he was the director prior to me taking over. And he does get back to you very promptly with answers. And if he hasn't got an answer, it's not too long before he goes away and seeks it and comes back again.
As I was saying to you just before we started the cameras rolling, I was on the phone to Martin earlier on, and the man's a glutton for punishment, because between right to the wall, looking after the orphan chapters, obviously he's part of the national team. His orphan chapter workload has taken a sudden increase. But he does send his regards to you from sunny Spain. And,
I'm sure he does.
Yeah,
I think deep down, Ken, he absolutely loves the pressure. He won't admit it, but I think deep down he loves it.
There are guys on this planet, and I think he is one of them, that if he had nothing to do, it would be dangerous. As far as attracting new membership, obviously you can't leave leaflets in a dealership. You can't have dealerships promoting the chapter when they sell a new bike, etc. How do you go about that? What advice would you give to the chapters to continue to bring in the new membership?
So what we do is we're very active. We ride a lot, so that gets our name out there. We go to a lot of bike meets, not Harley meets, just general bike meets, and get talking to people. Because any bike meet, you can have Harley riders there, you'll have non-Harley riders there that, with conversation might want to convert. Stay in communication with neighbouring chapters, because obviously when a potential new member buys a bike from a dealership, if they live in our catchment area but buy a bike from a neighbouring dealer, that's potential for them to become a member of our chapter as well. Obviously they'll get pushed to whatever chapter is closest to them. But it's just being active. The more active you are when you haven't got a dealership or a home for people to come and view, then you need to get out there to be able to get your name out. And the only way you can do that is by riding and attending various bike meets.
Yeah, I think the non-Harley bike meets is actually, that's a cracker. It's for the lost souls that are yet to discover Harley Davidson. They're the ones really that's the would be probably the most natural recruiting pool, because as you said at the top of the show, you move along with bikes. Obviously with our cuts, we're a rolling advertisement, aren't we, for HOG, and I suppose, as you say, if you're not out riding, no one's seeing you. They're not gonna know that you exist. So for members or potential new members that are trying to reach you, presumably then that's either through direct chat or via your websites and social media. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got a website that's accessible to the public. We've got a public-facing Facebook page, so people can see what we're up to and make contact with us. We advertise our monthly club nights so that people can come along for a chat if they want to. We're starting to hold ride-outs that are open to any two wheels. It's just so they can come along and have a chat and get a feel for what we're about. So you rock up on a sports bike. If for me, you're not going to go out and spend 15,000-20,000 pound on a Harley to join a chapter to see if you like it.
True.
You need to sample it to see
Yeah.
whether or not it's what you want to do before you go and make that financial commitment. So it's making sure you offer opportunities for non-Harley riders to be part of the chapter, just to sample what you're about.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Well,
you're going to have a limit on that. You're not going to come to every ride out and every club night and never buy a Harley. If it's not for you, then all right, thanks but no thanks. But it gives people the opportunity.
We've talked about it so many times on this show, and then obviously just whenever we chat to people in person, and I'm sure you remember how intimidating it is to walk into a club night or any sort of bike meet at first. It's only when you peek behind the curtain that you realise we're generally a really, really friendly bunch. There's always going to be that one guy or that one girl that you want to avoid, and that's just how it goes with a large body of people. What's Nene Valley's plans for this year? Obviously, we're still in February. We're right at the start, but presumably you're flat out planning now.
We are planning. The road captains have had their first meeting, started to plan the 2024 calendar. The next meeting to finalise the calendar is 22nd of February, where we should have, I would say, something like 95% full calendar for the year. We've got active activities officer, ladies of Harley, and charities officer that's all looking to put different events on. So it's not just the riding, it's the non-riding. Because one of the charity that we're supporting this year is it's a local charity called Ride to Give. So what we're doing, we're supporting that Thunder in the fields of Thunder again.
So I was going to ask you about that. Is that going ahead again? Is it?
That is definitely going ahead again. I actually had a conversation with the guy that organised it, Chris Park, who ran me up this morning, as it happens, because more than aware that he hasn't been communicating, but there's been a couple of issues he's had to deal with. There will be an announcement come out within the next couple of weeks on the locality of the Fields of Thunder event. I don't think it's going to be at Berry Farm this year.
I came down to that Fields of Thunder. So I got onto a boat at 3:30 in the morning from Belfast, landed in Stranraer and rode all the way down. And obviously, listen, there's no bones about it. The weather absolutely just destroyed the actual event insofar as, what it could have been. The potential of that event, I thought, is all there. The venue itself, what I couldn't understand, and obviously we did do an episode with Martin Coots, and at the time he said there was indoor venues, and while we were there and the rain was coming down from every angle, and we were looking at these barns that could have housed the whole event. So has Bury Farm been ruled out completely, or is it potentially there but indoors instead?
Okay, so for this year, Bury Farm has been ruled out. Mm-hmm. They're looking at 2 other venues, and they will secure one of those venues within the next couple of weeks. They are looking on having a big indoor arena, because lessons learned from the last one. Going back to last year's, there was talk of moving things indoor to that big barn area, but I believe part of the issue was the equestrian work that was being done in there. So it is an equestrian centre. So it got to the point where they couldn't do it, banked on having the decent weather. And to be fair to them, they did pull the stops out and got some kind of a gazebo up, marquee, to allow people to enjoy the music in the rain. Guarantee this year they'll put things indoors. It'll be one of the hottest days of the year, and you'll wish everything was outdoors again.
100%. 100%.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And do you know what? You're always better to be damned because you did, I think. I mean, the actual event there, the guys from the band's brilliant. Mark and Ian from Roadskin there. I don't know if you got a chance to sort of have a drink with them, but they were a great bunch, great pair of guys. And, the food was lovely. If that had been not even overly warm, if that had been a dry weekend, I think that event would have been one that everyone spoke about. Are you involved in the organisation of it this year?
Not as much as it was last year. I mean, Martin Coots and myself got heavily involved last year with it. But I think what they're doing, they're trying to run it themselves, but they are coming to Martin and myself asking for advice on what we think would be beneficial for chapters, because they want as many chapters down there as they again this year as they did last year. They want to try and grow it. You know, they've said they have learnt the lessons from mistakes that was made.
I'm often accused of having the optimism of a puppy, and you know, when I showed up before the rains really came in, I saw the layout, and I saw, to me, that had the potential of being Thunder of the South. So, you know, Thunder in the Glens, acorns turn into oak trees. Thunder in the Glens was not Thunder in the Glens as we know, and Fields of Thunder, I believe, has every opportunity and every possibility, as long as it's supported. You know, again, as any chapter, I mean, we had guys come across from Belfast. Well, I came across from Belfast, but you know, there would be more coming across, and you know, hopefully a bit more of the Irish contingent. And if we don't go, it won't grow, and of course, it will die. And I think, you know, it is important for the chapters to get there.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's the same with any venture that anybody takes on. You're not going to get it right first time. As long as you see people making the improvements from the mistakes, you've got to give them that chance, and I think they will do that.
As a chapter, are you looking at coming across to Ireland, the island of Ireland, whether for Bike Fest or shameless plug, the HOG-POD voted the most epic rally last year? Have you any plans for that?
But I'm sure that we've got members that will be coming across. You know, we've got a few chapter members that are very active. We're going out to quite a lot of the rallies. So rest assured, I'm sure you're going to see Nene Valley members at the majority of rallies across the UK and Ireland this year.
Geordies, if you're listening, your chapter rally isn't on this year, and you did say you were going to come across and join us in Belfast, and the invitation is still open. And obviously, Simon, to yourself, the invitation is wide open. But listen, thank you so much for taking your time out and sharing a bit of an insight and a bit of reassurance, really, that the chapter is the chapter. It's not the dealership. It's the people in the chapter. The advice that you've offered out, I'm sure it'll be lapped up. And if you don't mind, is it okay if I extend an invite to any of these recently orphaned chapters? If they want to get in touch with you, they can email you and have a chat with you.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. You know, it's not just myself. There's plenty of other directors out there that have been through the same process, and I'm sure they'll be willing to help out and give advice where possible.
So there you have it, guys. You've heard it from Simon to the recently orphaned chapters. Don't be giving up hope. There's lots of support out there, either from Simon or any of the other orphan chapters. HOG itself, there's a national team out there. Do not be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to try anything new, and just the very best of luck. We are all right behind you. Simon, thank you very, very much for joining us. It's been great to have you, and we will catch you soon enough.
You're indeed. Thank you very much, Kenny. Speak to you soon.